What's happening, everybody? Thursday, March 20th, 2025. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you all so much for tuning in to Loud Majority Live. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. We're going to be talking about the future. We're going to be talking about the future today because the future certainly looks bright for the America First movement and for the Republican Party. But it's going to require us to get back to work. It's going to require us to do the things that we need to do. Unfortunately, I feel at least we've been incredibly distracted over the first 2 months of the Trump administration. There's been a lot of noise focusing and not a lot of signal, as Steve Bannon loves to say. Ignore the noise, focus on the signal. And it's time for Republicans to start. And it's time for Republicans to start focusing on what's coming next. Because if we don't begin now that the weather's starting to get a little nice, I think today is the first day of spring, it's time for us all to get out there and it's time for us to do the things that we need to do. But we're going to go over all of that and we're going to show you why the future looks bright over the course of the next at least 8 years for Republican politicians moving forward. Before we get started, guys, hit that thumbs up button, share the video out all over the place. Share it out, share it out, share it out. Let's pop this live chat up onto the screen. Where do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Boom, boom, boom. Here we are. There is that live chat. Bam, there it is. What's going on, everybody? I want to say hello, hello, hello. It seems my Rumble's not really working, but wherever you're watching from, guys, make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. If you're watching on Facebook, do me a favor, hit that @ button, the little A with the circle. Tag your followers so that they can see it as well. I want to give a big shout out to everybody watching right now. Alrighty, well, you know what? We're going to dive in because I do have a lot of stuff that I want to make sure that I get to. There's a lot of stuff I want to make sure that I get to. Make sure you guys are following the page wherever it is you may be watching. This show is brought to you guys by Old Glory Bank.
What do a neurosurgeon, a country artist, and a television and radio host have in common? They all saw the writing on the wall. Big banks sharing your financial information with big government. Join them as owners in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank that protects your privacy, security, and liberty. Invest today at own.oldglorybank.com.
Guys, head on over to own.oldglorybank.com. That's own.oldglorybank.com. Become an investor, because why the hell not? So let's talk about what's been going on, because I really think, and this is going to be a bit of a lecturing show, which I tend not to try to do, but I think we really need to refocus. I think we really need to recenter. Two places in particular I think that need to be focused on. We touched on it a little bit yesterday, but I want to make sure I give it and I devote enough time to it. Today, the states of Virginia and the states of New Jersey. Those are the two states that have governor elections in 2025. Why is this important? Because it builds momentum. It builds momentum and it preserves the rights of the people of both of those states. Now, obviously, for those of you watching in New Jersey, for those of you in the tri-state area, you know that New Jersey is going to have a bitter primary. I wish both people luck, and we'll figure out what happens after that. But as far as Virginia goes, Virginia will have a new governor. Virginia governors can only serve one term. Governor Glenn Youngkin, he's out. We don't know what's in store for him next. He's definitely a powerhouse in the Republican Party. But the big thing is that if you're in Virginia, if you're in West Virginia, Mountain Mama, Country Road, Take Me Home, if you're in that sort of area, if you're in Maryland, go help out in the state of Virginia. I can promise you that people will be looking for help from anybody that's willing to help. I'm going to be playing a big part in the state of New Jersey. So for all my Jersey people, expect to see a hell of a lot of me on the west side of the Hudson River. And why do I say this? Because even if you don't have a governor up this year, even if you don't have any big races, you have local races. If you're here on Long Island, I promise you, if you want to get involved, reach out. Send me a message. I have a very, very particular race that you can help out in. A very big one. Moreover, learning from local elections, working local elections, volunteering your time, experiencing what's really going on the local level can give you the experience you're going to need if you want to participate in congressional elections during the midterms or big governor races in 2026. Now, why do I say that? Why do I say that? Because, well, there are going to be a long list of governors up in 2026, most notably here in the state of New York. Most notably in the state of New York. But there are a hell of a lot more that are going to be involved. Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Kansas, Colorado. There's a lot happening here. There are pretty much governor races happening almost all over the country, and there are certainly some of them that are flippable. I'm talking to my friends in Pennsylvania. I'm talking to the people in New Hampshire, New Mexico. These are all winnable. Maine. Get Janet Mills out of there. Well, she's done anyway. She's term limited out. But no matter where it is you're running, no matter where it is you live, there are races that could be won, and there are races that need to be held on to. And the reason I say this is because, look, the Cook Political Report in and of itself is listing Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, and Wisconsin, all as toss-ups. Scott Presler, he's on the ground right now in Wisconsin focusing on a Supreme Court seat. There are always elections that could be won. There was a special election here on Long Island, and I bet my Long Islanders didn't even know it. It happened yesterday. Did you even know about it? Most people didn't. It's time for us to get re-engaged. And if I've said it once on this show, I've said it 1,000 times. This show will be about activism. It will be about getting involved far more than it will ever be about commentary. Because we're about putting some hustle behind this muscle. There's a lot of people watching this show right now. And if we used our collective energy to be able to get involved, we could really make a serious dent in wherever it is that you live. If you're on Long Island and you want to get involved, let me know. I'll find you a race. I will absolutely find you a race to get involved with. We can make a serious dent coming into 2026. But more than that, it's about preserving this electoral win for President Trump. My friends in Georgia, you've got a Senate seat that's up. Getting Jon Ossoff the hell out of there. Gary Peters in Michigan, that's going to be an open seat. Tina Smith in Minnesota, that's going to be an open seat. She's not running for re-election. Jeanine Shaheen, that's going to be an open seat in New Hampshire. She is not running for re-election. The possibilities here are endless. And let's just use those in and of themselves. What's that? What did I say? 1, 2, 3, 4. Giving Donald Trump 57 seats in the Senate. People like John Fetterman have kind of been wishy-washy on some of the bills. He votes for things sometimes, goes back and forth. That means that we need 2. We would need 2 to pass our entire agenda. Moreover, it gives President Trump enough time to be able to implement the fullest extent of his electoral mandate. We went over it yesterday, but we'll do it one more time. There are House seats all over the country, in California, in Florida, in Indiana, in Maine, in Michigan, in North Carolina, in New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, Nevada, New York, a lot in New York, Ohio, Texas, Virginia, and Washington. 26 seats that the GOP is targeting in 2026. So if you say to me, Kevin, I live in the reddest of red areas, we've already won everything, my answer to you would be, find somewhere else. Maybe it's not your congressional district. Maybe it's not the town in which you live. But it's going to have an impact on your life. I don't live in New York City, but I do plenty of elections in New York City. Why? Because what happens in your major metropolitan is going to affect your suburban area. That's without question. It's about action. It's about getting involved. And why? We have the momentum. Donald Trump currently has an approval rating 22 points higher than elected Democrats. Fox News put out a poll this morning showing Donald Trump's approval rating at 49%. Some of the highest approval ratings he's ever seen. While Democrats are somewhere in the high 20s. 27, 29, depending on which poll you look at. Now, what does that mean? That means this is our opportunity to register those new voters. To take former Democrats. There are a lot of people out there. I'm sure there are some people watching in the chat right now who are registered Democrats. You vote Republican every time. Of that, I have no doubt. But some people just never bothered to change over their party registration. What does that mean? That means you can't vote in primaries. You can't decide whether or not you're going to get an America First Patriot or a neocon running for that particular seat. The sooner you get involved, I can promise you all something. I can absolutely promise you this. Getting involved in local politics is absolutely addicting. It's absolutely addicting. The minute you get involved, you will never, ever stop being involved in politics. It's absolutely addicting. But more than that, more than any of that, it's about keeping the momentum alive. Why? Is it about getting J.D. Vance or whichever Republican you may want elected in 2028? No. It's about what happens in 2032. Kevin, what the hell are you talking about? That's 7 years away. That's an eternity. That's an eternity away. Well, I want to show you guys something interesting from an organization called The Recount. They are definitely a left-wing organization. There's no question about that. But they put together what has been happening when it comes to population movements in this country over the course of the last 10 years or so. Okay? Because you guys have heard me say it before. There is no way. We'll use our area. Okay? COVID lockdowns, crazy BLM riots, Antifa, George Floyd, all that nonsense. Crazy Mayor Eric Adams, Alvin Bragg, Kathy Hochul, and her eyebrows. There is no way to judge how many people fled New York and went to Pennsylvania. There's really no way to judge how many people fled New Jersey and went to North Carolina. There's no way to judge how many people left Philadelphia and went to Florida. And if you're on the West Coast and you're watching this, there's no way to judge how many people left California and went to Arizona, Idaho, Utah, Nevada. There's no way to judge that unless we get out there and get them re-registered, because there are people who fled New York, now live in Pennsylvania, who might not re-register to vote. And if they do that, they don't get to vote. And then we can't get Josh Shapiro out. We can't challenge some of those races. That's going to be the key. Will we take advantage of the migration? Joe Delio. There's 15,000 people watching. I don't have time to just ask you how your day is going. There's one guy thinks that I'm doing this show just so I can communicate with him. I don't understand it. Just blows up the live chat every time. Drives me absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Drives me nuts. Every time. It's not about you, Joe. Sorry, bro. So let's move on, because now I'm all thrown off because one guy thinks this is whatever. Not really the point. Drives me insane. But let's move on, because let's talk about that sort of migration. As I said, The Recount has put together a great little piece I want to show you guys. It's about 3.5 minutes long. It's about 3.5 minutes long. I want you guys to check this out about why Democratic states are in trouble. Not this election, not this midterm, not 2028, but moving forward. All because of migration.
There's a year that should absolutely terrify Democrats. It's not 2024 or 2026 or even 2028. It's 2032. For decades now, the Census Bureau has been calculating the U.S.'s demographic tipping point. This is a measure of population distribution that imagines the place in the U.S. where the population is evenly balanced in every direction. In 1800, the year of the first census, when the country was essentially just on the East Coast, the tipping point was in Maryland, near Baltimore. As the country expanded, it began to move west, and in recent decades, it zoomed both west and south, landing at its current spot here in Missouri. And that gives you a sense of how the population is moving in the US right now. Generally, northern and eastern states are shrinking relative to the overall population, while southern and western states are growing. There are a lot of reasons for this trend that we'll get into, but one thing that's not up for debate is that the population movement right now is a flashing red warning sign for Democrats. The reason is the 2030 reapportionment. Every 10 years, the US conducts a census. One big thing done with that data is the recalculation of how many seats each state gets in the House of Representatives and how many votes it gets in the Electoral College. And those numbers move in tandem. If you gain 2 House seats, you gain 2 electoral votes. If you lose a House seat, you lose an electoral vote. So population growth, population shifts, where people are choosing to move to and settle down, that all matters a ton to the political landscape. And right now, it's not really a question of who's winning. Democratic states are losing population, and Republican states are gaining. Here's one way to think about it. In 2020, Joe Biden won a 306 to 232 victory in the Electoral College. Then, after 2020, the census was finished and representation was reallocated for the 2022 midterms and 2024 presidential election. Under the new map, winning those same states would have shrunk Biden's victory margin by 6 electoral votes, to 303 to 235. And that's just the beginning. The next census will happen in 2030, and the map will again change for the 2032 presidential election. And right now, the outlook for that map is a disaster for Democrats. 2 different groups with opposite political leanings have estimations for what it will look like, and they're almost exactly the same. Ironically, the liberal group's map is slightly worse for Democrats. So, in the interest of argument, let's go with that one. This is what reapportionment is on track to look like in 2030. Blue states like California and New York shedding House seats and electoral votes, and red states like Texas and Florida gaining 4 new electoral votes and House seats each. For an example of how much that could shift the map, in 2024, Donald Trump won a 312 to 226 victory in the Electoral College. Under this projection, the exact same state and vote breakdown would swell that margin by 20 electoral votes to 322 to 216. Now, these projections this far...
That is out of control. Donald Trump, if we go by the 2030 projections, will pick up 20 more electoral votes just by existing. People leaving New York, leaving California, and moving to more red states will eventually give the apportionment of Electoral College votes more credence, more power in places like Texas and Florida. We're going to pop this up. I want to show you the map at the very end. Give me 1 second.
There's a year that should absolutely...
Let's just look at this right here. Right now, Florida has, I believe, 29 electoral votes. It could gain 5 electoral votes virtually overnight in 2032. That's 5 more members of Congress. That's 5 more Anna Paulina Lunas, 5 more Byron Donalds, 5 more Matt Gaetzes, 5 more Corey Mills, 5 more absolute savages. Texas, the exact same thing. We also see a drop-off in California and New York. California losing up to 4 electoral votes. That's 4 members of Congress gone out of the state of California. That's 3 members of Congress gone from the state of New York. That could change the entire makeup of the House of Representatives. We keep asking ourselves, how is it that there is such a discrepancy between red states and blue states. And it's because for a long time, people just didn't live in red states. They just didn't. ZBM watching. He's watching in Idaho. Nobody lives there. Nobody lives there. You ever been to Iowa? You ever been to Iowa? There's like 100 miles where there's just no living human. Nobody lives there. For example, let's talk about congressional apportionment, okay? I'm going to pull up a map of the state of New York. Map of New York. Let me see if I can grab this real quick. I'm going to show you. Oh, of course it does. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, no. Let's see here. Bing, bing, bing. Here is the state of New York. Let me get this up real quick. Give me 1 second. Sorry, guys. There is the World Atlas State of New York. Do you see this? Do you guys see Albany right here? Right in the middle of the screen? Elise Stefanik's district goes from that star directly in the middle all the way to Maine, and from Lake Ontario all the way to Vermont. But with population movement, with people leaving the big cities and heading towards some of these more rural areas, central Pennsylvania, places like just outside of Nashville, Tennessee, you're going to begin to see a much, much more accurate accounting of where these people are. Right now, red states are significantly underrepresented when it comes to congressional apportionment and the Electoral College. Moreover, with the exodus of thousands, millions, how many illegal immigrants who get counted in the census, these numbers could get even worse for the state of California, for the state of New York. We need to get involved in that. We need that to happen. There's plenty of people watching right now. Each and every one of you can get involved if you want to. And I will absolutely show you how to do that. Anybody that wants to message me on the side, I can't answer you specifically on the show because a lot of people are watching and it's not your show, Joe. But you message me and I will get you involved with an activist in your area, particularly on the local level. This is what needs to happen. Why? Because even though Donald Trump is still in power, there are still plenty of people doing everything they can to thwart his legislative agenda, which we're going to get to throughout the rest of the show today. Before we get to that, guys, Mike Lindell.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Guys, head on over to MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD for up to 80% off everything on the website. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. How's everybody doing today? I just got yelled at in the chat because I said that nobody lives in Iowa. Yeah, I'm not saying nobody lives there. I'm saying that the population density areas, like Des Moines, tend to control the state. But if we were to figure out who it is who started moving into the rural areas, they would begin to have a little bit more power. They begin to have a little bit more power. Guys, once again, hit the thumbs up button, share the video out all over the place. Does anybody want to get involved? Does anybody care Or do we want to keep seeing Democrats win? We want to keep seeing Democrats win. I'll put the live chat up there, and I'll let you guys answer that for yourselves. Patty Vest, how are you? Donna, what's going on? Rose, what's happening? Shout out to everybody watching all over the place. Once again, guys, make sure you are hitting that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. Share it out. Sophie, how are you? USA. Hazel Kitty, what's going on? Because as I said, there are still going to be people out there who attempt to stop Donald Trump from doing everything that he was elected to do. And it's a very serious problem. It's a very serious problem. Speaking of people trying to thwart the president, let's take a look at the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu. Now, I still don't know how Boston elected an Asian chick. If you've ever been to Boston, I don't really know how they did that, but that's not really the point. She straight up says that she will just ignore everything ICE wants to do because she stands with illegal immigrant criminals.
We stand with immigrants. You belong here. Somos una ciudad de inmigrantes. Boston doesn't back down. We are a city where the Irish coffee is strong and our opinions are stronger. We may not always agree or see eye to eye, but at the end of the day, we are a family. If you come for one of us, you will get all of us.
So what are we doing? What is Boston willing to do? Are they willing to see their city overrun by illegal immigrants? Do you live in Massachusetts? Do you live in the suburbs? Do you live in Cape Cod? On Cape Cod. Love Cape Cod. Maybe my favorite place in the world. No matter where you live, you can get involved to help people who are trapped in places like Boston. You can do it anytime you want because Democrats have gone out of their way to take the 80-20 position on almost everything. And judges are now going out of their way to thwart everything Donald Trump is doing. There are, let's see, how many district court judges are there? There's over 670, 677, according to Google AI, district court judges all over the country. So it stands to reason that there may be some with political ideologies that are different than the president. The problem is with that is they are using their activism from the bench to thwart everything Donald Trump wants to do, whether it's deporting illegal immigrants, whether it is getting men out of women's prisons. That's a real story. You're going to find one that's going to stop it. So it's up to us to make sure that these people don't get reelected. And there's many places in the country that elect district court judges. Are you willing to get involved in a local judge's race to stop this article from The Guardian happening? Judge orders Trump administration to return 2 trans prisoners to women's facilities. Yeah, that's really happening. A judge on Wednesday ordered the Federal Bureau of Prisons to transfer 2 incarcerated transgender men, to federal women's prisons after they had been sent back to men's prisons after Donald Trump's executive order on transgender protections. This is from The Guardian, so you got to understand it's going to come with a bit of a liberal bias here. U.S. Court Judge Ross Lamberth in Washington, D.C., issued a preliminary injunction after the women were added to the men were added to the plaintiff list in the ongoing litigation over the impact of President Trump's executive order on trans men in federal prisons. Lambert ordered the Bureau of Prisons to immediately transfer the 2 men, in court documents by their pseudonyms, Rachel and Ellen, back to the women's prison. And look, I want to make it very clear. If I was looking at some serious time, if I was looking at 25 to life, I'd probably do everything I could to get transferred to a women's prison also. I think that would probably go very well for me. Rather than being in a men's prison. I'm sure many of them will continue to try. The women in the court papers, the men in the court papers, said that they were living in constant fear of sexual assault and other violence after being moved to the men's prison. Male prisoners were repeatedly propositioned them for sex, and male officers subjected them to strip searches without female officers present. Well, you're guys, so that's what's going to happen. Every time Donald Trump makes a move, every time he makes a move, there's going to be some district court judge out there who disagrees with it, who tries to stop it. Just wait till the DOJ goes after these Tesla dealers and the swattings. We're going to talk about that in a second. But Tim Pool brought up an interesting point the other day. Hey, Carrie-Ann. Tim Pool brought up an interesting point the other day that I just want to query with you. Imagine it's 1945. And the Enola Gay is taking off for a quick little mission over Hiroshima. Could you imagine, in any universe, some district court judge, like, phoning up, I don't know, MacArthur or Truman and going, actually, you can't bomb Japan?
To envision. What was the guy's name? Spitzer? The guy who bombed, who bombed Nagasaki and Hiroshima? I have the magazine right there.
The Enola Gay?
No, the general.
Yeah.
Which general oversaw bombing?
They have the Enola Gay
Nagasaki
at the National Air and Space Museum in Chantilly.
It was General Curtis LeMay and Leslie Groves. I want you to imagine that these guys sitting there with their cigars are like, boys, load it up, put the bomb in. We're flying to Japan. And then as the plane's in midair, a D.C. court judge goes, no, turn those planes around right now. And the general goes, shucks. All right, boys, send them home. A local district court judge told us we can't fly those planes. And these aren't even presidents. These are generals. They're going to be like, excuse me? And that ain't happening. No. The president can give me the order. You can't.
The president can give the order. You can't. Because some district court judge does not have the power to overrule the president. But Democrats continue their radicalism. Every time they do this, every time they try to, and watch what's happening here. This is a masterclass by people like Stephen Miller and Susie Wiles. Every executive order that Donald Trump has put out, I want you guys to pay attention to this. Every executive order has been on an 80-20 issue. Every 50-50 sort of thing, it goes to Congress. It goes to the Senate. It goes through that sort of normal congressional process. Why are they doing this? They're doing it so that when Donald Trump is stopped by a federal court judge stopping men from being transferred to women's prisons, or boys from being in girls' locker rooms, or deporting illegal immigrant criminals, we get scenes like this from CNN comparing the deportation of illegal immigrants, illegal immigrant criminals, illegal immigrant criminal gang members to the Trail of Tears.
Basically put on fire.
Two quick points. One, it's not totally unprecedented at all for a president to disagree with an opinion of a judge. I mean, we saw that, with Andrew Jackson, who didn't like the ruling about the Cherokee Nation. When he ignored the ruling and said something like, you know what, here's your order, now you come in and enforce it, we had the Trail of Tears. We have a history of what happens when you totally ignore a judicial hearing. The other aspect of it, though, is there is a mechanism. It's called impeachment. If there is a judge who truly is wrong, who's committed a high crime or misdemeanor or bribery or treason, you can follow the same protocol that we're very familiar with now. But it's not because you hate the ruling. It's because of what their conduct actually is.
Right. The conduct is really what's at issue. And actually that brings...
Yes, you're right. Now flip that script. I don't know who that woman is. A judge can't just issue an injunction because they don't like the policy. See how that works? But Democrats going out of their way, doing yeoman's work to stop everything imaginable that the American people actually voted for. Because I want to be clear. If a judge can just overrule the president on a popular mandate issue like removing illegal immigrants, then what the hell's the point of even having elections? Why don't we just let the 677 judges just all get together and just decide what we can do? The Federalist Papers very clearly state that the judicial branch should be the least powerful branch. Of course they should. And then we got decisions like Marbury versus Madison, but I'm not going to get into Supreme Court law with all of you. However, it is leading to more craziness. Democrats not being able to figure out which way is up, as they continuously do. And because of that, we are going to continue to win. We got to stay on message, we got to stay focused, and we got to stay active. You guys might sense an overarching theme to the show today. Why? Because it turns out Democrats, huge fans of domestic terrorism, as we've seen throughout the country. Here is a clip from The Daily Show. I know some of you don't know what this is. It's a show that Jon Stewart used to host. And then he's basically cycled through a repeating gaggle of not funny people in order to keep the show going. But here is just a smidgen of Daily Show audience viewers cheering on the concept of domestic terrorism.
Jim, they're taking to the streets or the parking lots.
Tonight, the FBI and ATF now investigating multiple cases of possible arson targeting Teslas and Cybertrucks.
This dramatic video shows multiple cars in flames. Police say the attacker used Molotov cocktails. It's the latest in more than a dozen instances of arson and vandalism targeting Tesla.
The same suspect shot more Teslas with a gun. Tesla Cybertrucks were set on fire in Kansas City, and earlier this month, shots fired at a Tesla dealership in Oregon. Cybertrucks on fire in Seattle.
Wow, you guys like petty acts of domestic terrorism, huh?
Wow, you guys like domestic terrorism, huh? Yep, you're going to like it a hell of a lot more now that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are ready to send you all to prison for domestic terrorism. Because you know my motto, when you want something done right, send two guys from Long Island. Giddy up, let's go. Guys, we're going to keep this going in just a second. Before we do that, Old Glory Bank.
When big banks decide who gets access to America's financial systems and who doesn't, who do you think gets left out? Middle Americans who proudly wave their pro-America values. Cancel culture in banking is corrosive. It limits your participation in a vibrant, free market economy. Fortunately, you can fight back. You now have the opportunity to invest in the bank that's investing in a fair American banking system, one based in freedom. Ownership in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank, is here. Old Glory Bank is a full-service FDIC-insured bank that's the alternative to overreaching, un-American big banks. We stand for privacy, security, and liberty. We stand for freedom, family, faith, and the flag. We stand for all the values you stand for, and for the values big banks can't stand. So help keep banking in the hands of Main Street, not Wall Street. To invest in Old Glory Bank, go to oldglorybank.com.
Guys, head on over to oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. Giddy up, let's go, guys. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. Do me a favor, make sure you refresh the page to make sure that your Rumble has counted. You know, sometimes it doesn't work. But guys, do me a favor, head on over to oldglorybank.com. Things have gotten so bad. Things have gotten so bad with the calls for domestic terrorism in this country that even CNN was forced to acknowledge its existence. Even CNN was like, wow, this is happening so often, we've actually got to talk about it. Here was CNN covering the swattings over the last several weeks.
This morning, a growing number of conservative influencers are getting targeted by swatters. There have been at least a dozen incidents in recent days of bogus calls that draw police and first responders to the target's home, including the home of Erin Durham in North Carolina. She opened the door late at night to armed officers.
When I walked up to the door, he was pointing a gun at me, and obviously immediately stopped when he saw me. But it was a lot of confusion, a lot of fear. I felt like I was going to pass out most of the time that they were in the house.
This is so disturbing. The FBI and Department of Homeland Security are now investigating these incidents, and CNN Hadass Gold is joining me now. She is looking into them as well. What are you learning? Who is the target mainly, and how does this all go down?
So what we've seen is over the past 2 weeks, at least a dozen influencers have been targeted in these swattings. And not just swattings, they're also getting things like bogus pizza deliveries. Now, what we found commonality amongst all of these influencers is almost all of them have some sort of following on X. Almost all of them are pro-Trump. Many of them have interacted with actually Elon Musk, the owner of X. Some of them have millions of followers and are super well known. And some of them are some of these more smaller influencers. But again, almost all of them are pro-Trump. Many of them call themselves conservatives, and many of them have interacted with Elon Musk. Now, as you noted, swatting is very dangerous and it can be deadly. These callers will call in with bogus calls of people being shot, of a home invasion, of holding people hostage. It causes a huge response from police and emergency services, which draws them away from other actual emergencies. But if there's confusion, something could go wrong and something could go very wrong. So I actually spoke to two of these influencers. I spoke to Erin, who you just heard from, and to Larry Taunton. She's in North Carolina. He's in Alabama. Both got these swatting calls right around the same time, early Sunday, right around 1 a.m. Both got bogus calls about that. They were pretending to be the homeowners, saying that they had been shot. There were other people had been shot, caused a big response. Here's what Larry said he experienced. Take a listen.
There were no sirens, no lights, no announcement, nothing. And he's trying the door handle. And I am crouched inside, armed, and I'm thinking if that man comes through my door, I'm going to light him up, because you're just thinking somebody's here to murder me and my wife.
And what's really notable is a lot of these influencers are armed. They carry guns. And so many of them are saying this could have turned really bad because I thought somebody was robbing my home.
Breaking in.
Yeah, Erin called it a cheap form of domestic terrorism. Now, the FBI and the DHS say that they are investigating this. The Secretary of Homeland Security is saying that under President Trump's leadership, we will not sit idly by as conservative new media and their families are being targeted by false swatting. She also said this is an attack on our law enforcement and innocent families, and will be prosecuted as such. But what makes this hard to investigate is the technology that these people use with the swatting. They spoof their phone numbers. A lot of them even use artificial intelligence to spoof the voices. But there have been prosecutions on this, and this is a very dangerous game that people are playing.
It is. It's really dangerous, and it puts a lot of people in a bad spot. The police and the people who are being swatted. It's disgusting. Someone is going to get hurt. Someone has gotten hurt. I remember this happening over video games.
Yes,
where someone got really hurt in all of this.
They didn't get really hurt. They didn't get really hurt. They got killed. They got killed. But the fact that CNN is even acknowledging it lets me know, are they worried about themselves? Are they worried about retaliation? Are they worried about what comes next? I don't really know. But the fact that CNN spent an entire B-block segment, sorry, I gotta fix my mic. The fact that they spent an entire segment on this lets me know that some of them are actually concerned. Meanwhile, you've got jackasses out there like Jimmy Kimmel. He's laughing about it.
Down other than the stock market for a change. Our co-president, Elon Musk, sent a SpaceX vehicle to bring the astronauts back, and when they landed, he fired them immediately upon landing. Tesla stock is way down, almost disastrously so. People have been vandalizing Tesla vehicles, new Tesla vehicles. Please don't vandalize, don't ever vandalize Tesla vehicles. And so Elon Musk has been making the rounds.
You get it? You guys get it? Like, hey, don't do that. We wouldn't want that to happen. from the guy who used to walk down La Cienega Boulevard making women feel his brajol because he had a cucumber in there, because let's be honest, Jimmy Kimmel probably got a tiny piece of deal. That guy, that Disney is now calling for domestic terrorism. It's out of control. But as Democrats continue to ramp up their insanity, as Democrats continue to take the 80-20 position on everything, we will continue to work harder every single day. That is our mission. That is our goal. That is all we can do. That is all we can do. Eli says it's time to go full dictator. Come on, bro. You never go full dictator. Eli, pretend like you don't know what that is. You never go full dictator. It's a great movie. It's a great movie. If you guys haven't seen Tropic Thunder, go watch it. It's one of the best. I don't like Ben Stiller. I don't like Jack Black, but that's Tropic Thunder is one of the best movies ever. One of the best movies ever. Guys, hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place, because, of course, we're going to have some fun in just a minute, as Pete Hegseth just announced he saved $500 million. Did I get that right? Is it $500 million or was it $500 billion? I don't know. Might have that wrong. Guys, hit the thumbs up button and do me a favor. Head on over to LFATV.us. That's LFATV.us. That's your home base, your mothership, your landing pad for all things LFATV related. Check out the LFATV store. And while you guys are there, consider becoming a monthly donor over to LFATV. That's the best way to help this network and everything we've got going on over here. So while Democrats continue to push this nonsense domestic terrorism operation, and I love the fact that they're trying to compare it to the Bud Light boycotts. They're trying to compare it to the Bud Light and the Target and the DEI boycotts. Nobody set a Target on fire. Okay? Nobody tried to have the CEO killed. But Democrats continue to sit out there, praise people like Luigi Mangione, praise the bombing of Tesla dealerships, and AG Pam Bondi just announced these people are going away. They're going away for a long, long time, and you watch what'll happen. Sure as I'm sitting here right now, Democrats will try to use the line, Donald Trump is using his attorney general to protect his political allies. No, you can't go around setting shit on fire. The difference is Democrats have gotten away with it for the past, 70 years. Because all left-wing violence is okay. Whether it's the Weather Underground setting off a bomb in the Capitol, putting someone like Bernadine Dohrn on the FBI's most wanted list, until she just waited around until the statute of limitations died out and then got a job at the University of Chicago Law School, or whether it's Antifa, or whether it's this Mahmoud Khalid guy who is a terrorist who needs to be sent way back to Syria immediately, since apparently he likes it better there. Apparently, he thinks things are better in Syria. So here's your one-way flight, Mahmoud. Mahmoud. It's probably not, that's not even his name. I don't really care, though, because he advocates for a country that doesn't exist. But he seems like just a genuinely terrible person. Here was Scott Jennings talking about the left's obsession with domestic terrorism. And I want you to look at the woman that's on the panel with him. Her name, I think it's Neera Tanden. She's gotten a little bit bigger since the last time I saw her. Mitosis is what we call it. Yeah, things aren't really looking so good for the left when it comes to their advocation of terrorism.
There's also, on the subject of Elon Musk, there's been all kinds of vandalism against Teslas and Tesla dealerships all over the country. Las Vegas, Kansas City, Encinitas, Buffalo Grove, Littleton, Mass. I grew up right next to Littleton, Mass. Loveland, Colorado, Tigard, Oregon, all over the place.
The other night, Donald Trump said these are domestic terrorists. Everybody laughed about it and scoffed at it. That video looks like terrorism to me. I mean, it's obviously an organized, coordinated effort, however people are communicating with each other, to do this to people around the country who chose to buy a Tesla at some point in the past, many of whom I'm sure are Democrats who bought them in the first place, all because their entire political worldview is ruled by their emotions. And that's the American left right now. It is one angry mob after another willing to take things into their own hands, up to and including keying, firebombing, and otherwise vandalizing cars and car dealerships and charging stations. It's outrageous. It is terrorism. People ought to be put in jail and left there for a very long time and be taught a lesson. So this right here, what's going on with a guy who helps our country, who runs successful companies, who doesn't have to be doing this, and now one of his companies is under systematic terroristic threat and violence all over the country, and people seem to be laughing about it or fine with it. It's outrageous. I've sat at this table and had people say, we should cut Elon Musk from the government totally. He rescued our astronauts today. Is that what we want? The treatment of this guy is outrageous. These people who are doing this need to be found, put in jail, and made an example of. That's my point.
I think we should let Neera Tanden go on TV without any hairspray and see how that ends up working out. But the bottom line is, what Scott Jennings said there is correct. The Democrats are, every one of their policies is dictated by emotion, not principle. See, I have no problem disagreeing with the Republicans, disagreeing with President Trump. And when I do, I say it out loud. Because my policies are dictated on my principles. They're not just the whims of whatever is happening in whatever political culture happens to be going on. And because of that, Democrats have no basis for their orthodoxy. They don't understand because they haven't thought things through. 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, we needed electric vehicles everywhere. Everywhere. Because big oil and the fossil fuel industry is corrupt and bleh, whatever. Now, because they don't like the guy, they're setting electric vehicles on fire. That doesn't make any logical sense, but nothing they do does. And that's why we are seeing this uptick in the polls. People can see it for themselves. They can see it for themselves. And it is up to us to let the ones who aren't seeing it figure it out. And I want to make it clear, that's why I push so hard for activism. That's why I push so hard to get involved. Once again, I am probably the most accessible person hosting a show anywhere. Message me and I will put you in contact with someone in your local area to get involved locally, to get involved nationally. Politics is not a spectator sport. It's a participation sport. And you have to be on the field. Because decisions get made by those who show up. And if you wait for somebody else to do it, nobody is going to do it. Guys, I got 2 more stories I want to get to real quick before the end of the show. One that's going to be very, very great, and another one that is very, very not great. But before we get to that, guys, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. That is the best way to support this network and everything we've got. Hold on a minute. Wait a minute. Are there new shirts on the website? I think there are. Whoever just put this up, oh, look at that. It's a Dare shirt. You guys remember from the 90s, Dare. That didn't go very well, that ridiculous drug program that they made us all take in elementary school, that every single one of us followed to the T. I want to make that clear. Guys, look at this, the new Make America Great Again shirt in every sort of color one can think of. Guys, check that out today. Also, there appears to be an Easter shirt. Make Easter grow. Oh, that's a beauty. That's a beauty. Look at that right there. You guys can pick that up by going to loudmajorityusa.com. And for everybody who orders anything today, I will send you a free Loud Majority USA decal. You can put it on your car. You can put it on your laptop. You can slap it anywhere. Put it on a mailbox outside of your neighborhood. That way everybody sees it. Giddy up. Let's go. So let's get to the good news first. Pete Hegseth announcing massive cuts to the Pentagon, which is exactly what Democrats have pretended that they wanted for the longest time. Here's Secretary Hegseth.
So today, I'm signing a memo directing the termination of over $580 million in DoD contracts and grants that do not match the priorities of this president or this department. In other words, they are not a good use of taxpayer dollars. Ultimately, that's who funds us, and we owe you transparency and making sure we're using it well. So here's quickly what we're canceling today. There's an HR software effort that was supposed to take a year and cost $36 million, but instead it's taken 8 years and is currently $280 million over budget, not delivering what it was supposed to. So that's 780% over budget. We're not doing that anymore. Number two, another batch of DoD grants, $360 million worth this time. Decarbonizing emissions from Navy ships, part of the Obama-Biden green agenda, that's $6 million. $5.2 million on something that would diversify and engage the Navy by engaging underrepresented BIPOC students and scholars. Another $9 million at a university to approach equitable AI and machine learning models. I need lethal machine learning models, not equitable machine learning models. And number three, in our ongoing effort to cut wasteful spending on external consulting services, $30 million in contracts with Gartner and McKinsey. It's IT, purchasing, unused licenses. So when you add it all up, $580 million in DoD contracts and grants, DOGE is helping us cut today. What does that bring our total number up? Total cuts, running total, $800 million in wasteful spending canceled over the first few weeks as DoD partners with DOGE here to make sure that our warfighters have what they need by cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse. They're working hard. We're working hard with them. We appreciate the work that they're doing, and we have a lot more coming, so stay tuned.
A lot more coming. Stay tuned. Thank you, Secretary Hegseth. Very good. Now we're going to end the show with something horrifying. We're going to end the show with something awful. We're going to end the show with something that's just going to make everybody really cringe. Really, really hurt. Guys, hit the thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. Are you ready to be kind of upset? Well, Dylan Mulvaney is back, obviously, because when a person's mental illness requires them to be in dire need of attention, they can't stay away for very long. So Dylan Mulvaney, the man who got $6 billion taken away from Anheuser-Busch's market share, is launching a new podcast. And I want to make it very clear. The trailer is horrifying. It's really not nice. I mean, I might watch it just for the clips, but check this out.
In the shower, on a walk, the Dylan Hour, feeling sweet, feeling sour. I feel nothing. The Dylan Hour. My couch is open, it's better than therapy. All you soccer moms, all your theys and thems, all your bottom boys, my bisexual femmes. Come one and all, disassociate with me. It's free. Grab a drink, or two or three. You have no friends. All good, you got me. It's the Dylan Hour. Love ya.
Reopen the asylums. Reopen the asylums and fill them with all of that right now. Guys, we hit that 300 mark. I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot. I will catch you guys all back live tomorrow. Until then, everybody, stay loud.